to a mashed potatoes online and carrots. A carrot smiley face. So it looks like the sun.
Yeah. What did you do today? You like? Well.
You had a fun day.
That's the cake.
Hey, hi, Mike.
Just what order?
Hi, Mike.
Eli.
Come on. He always goes to practice, but I brought his shoes, so he's still wearing the boots on. No, I'll put your dad's socks.
How's Mark doing? Ooh, yelling. Yelling like Magellan.
He's doing good.
Yeah. Is he back to work yet, or? Okay.
Aaron told me we sit
I'm sorry?
That's going to be her class.
Okay.
That's not where.
I didn't know. I've been kind of looking for him in the hallways if I
Oh, really?
pass him, and so. Okay.
No, it's gonna be a while until his immunity system
Yeah.
builds up and
Okay.
he has to be very careful still with, don't be around people.
Yeah. Okay.
Wear a mask.
Is it still looking like it should?
Yeah, it's, the transplant itself is still.
Can we sit on your road?
Absolutely.
The more the merrier.
Sure.
We didn't want him to string his leg.
Looking over to you guys, yeah. Well, I mean, Sam's sitting in Steve's seat, so that means Sam's gonna have to do all the talking tonight. Well, I have us down for finishing up with. God, great, that thing's so loud. Finishing up with the book with lesson 18. So that's kind of where my mind's at. I don't know if anybody has planned for the next quarter or, well, whatever, not really quarter since we don't follow that out here, but so the title of this lesson is Wait Until the Final Chapter Has Been Written. He starts off by talking about this individual, Paul Kraft. I've never known Paul Kraft, never heard of his name until I was reading through this, and recognized Ray Stevens and some of the songs that he mentioned here. But he talks about this Ray Kraft setting in kind of almost like despair or just, some kind of the attitude that we sometimes have just in general, that, things just aren't going well and you just kind of have that sourpuss look on your face. Or you just look like Aaron and you come in late and you just get picked on. And so for those that were here at the very beginning of this book, the book opens up with talking about all of the famous individuals, actors, actresses, sports individuals that had relatively young lives that I think most of them either committed suicide or died of some kind of drug or alcohol overdose. And you think about that, I'm not saying that everybody that commits suicide has this mindset, but there are those that commit suicide because they have that sense of no hope especially after some horrific tragedy, or they're so overstressed that they can't see past the here and now. How does this lesson, waiting until the final chapter has been written, how does that apply to and kind of sum up all of this that has been discussed so far, especially in relation to that idea of those that have especially taken their own lives? Any thoughts on that?
When you describe that, I'm thinking of the attitude or the thinking of those people who were famous in this life. And actually they came to the conclusion that was all there was. That there was no happy ending.
Yeah.
They had never considered that. Because life had enveloped them so very much. I'm thinking of Elvis Presley. And Elvis loved singing and everything. And I know a little bit of his background. But he got in with the upper crust, if you will. And I think that ruined him. And I say I know a little bit about his background. I know what type of family he came from. It was done. It didn't matter.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. There's a lot of it is they can't look past that, what's going on right now, the here and now. He finishes off that first paragraph talking about Yogi Berra and his famous quote, "It's not over till it's over," right? There's the possibility of something different coming along. I can't remember. There was like 2 or 3 other different sayings. It's not over until the fat lady sings and whatnot. That, again, same concept that it's not over yet, right? There's possibility for change. And so if things are bad right now, they don't have to stay bad, right? There's things that happen that lead to good outcomes. We can change our mindset so that we have a more positive attitude, which that, again, going back to some of the lessons we've had previously, that positive attitude then resembles a happy life and changes our attitude about our life. But somebody has to do a lot of talking, and it's not going to be this guy. Actually, it is.
I'm just sitting here thinking about how innocently sometimes you will get into a situation that takes control of your life and everything. And by them establishing groups of people who have recovered, I don't know that you ever recovered fully, but that are there to help counsel and help other people get through things is probably what saves a lot of their lives.
Yeah.
It's a struggle all through your life. And it can be the same way with us. If you're struggling with something, we should try to reach out because there's somebody that can help us.
Yeah, and again, I think we all recognize that there's a reason why we're told to share our burden or our struggles with one another, right? It's not necessarily so that we can have something to lord over one another, but it's more the concept that if I know that Lori's struggling with something that I struggled with in the past, I can help her, or vice versa. It's all about, I hate using the term because it feels like it's denominational, but community, right? We have a community here And if we can share the burdens and the fears and the struggles with one another, it builds up that community, makes us stronger. Did anybody read the several paragraphs about Aristotle and the his ethos writing there? So to kind of sum up the this concept here, he has two individuals. This Croesus was the king of Lydia, rich, powerful, and he brought in Solon, who was a wise man and wanted to show off all of his wealth. And then he asked Solon who the happiest in all of his life, who is the happiest individual he's ever come across. And instead of saying that it was Croesus, he tells him that it's Tellus, and he asks why. He says it's this fella, and he talks about. He says, first, because his country was flourishing in his day, and he himself had sons, both beautiful and good, and he lived to see children born to each of them, and these children all grew up. And further, because after a life spent in what our people look upon as comfort, his end was glorious. In a battle between the Athenians and their neighbors near Eleusis, he died gallantly upon a field, and the Athenians gave him a public funeral and paid him the highest honors. And so I think the point of all of this is that Solon recognizes that it's not the wealth that an individual has that, it might be something that we view as making us happy momentarily. There's greater things that can bring joy to one's life. And he then goes on to say that the conclusion that Aristotle brings to this is that based upon his analysis of many lives, that no man can really be called happy until he has mostly lived out his life and he is either old or deceased, and then others may safely conclude that his life was a happy one. Thoughts on that? Can a young individual say that they have a happy life? Is it only left to the elderly? April?
It's very loaded.
Very loaded?
I think we have to learn to be happy where we are. But when you look at youth, a lot of times they are happy where they are. Teenagers are not, but you don't have to be old to be able to be happy where you are and look back and be happy where you've been. No, because at that point, it seems like life would be really depressing. And how would I be happy when I finally got there?
I was watching a video, a little segment of a movie, and the elderly individual was in the hospital, and this young lady brought in some letters that he had wrote his wife, many, many years beforehand. And she sat there and just reads the date, and he just says, yeah, that was a good day. You know, and it's, how often do we think about that? That, you know, there's just certain days that you know are just good days.
And it kind of goes back to Ecclesiastes, that, you know, what are we striving for? What is our goal?
Right.
Where are our hearts set? And I've got fifth graders right now that I will tell you, they're not good humans.
Yeah.
They are not good humans, and trying to help them see where to look for hope, where to look for goodness, and to put goodness back into the world. And simply telling them, be somebody when you leave a room, you're this. People aren't sighing in relief.
Yeah.
You know, how to be, you know, and how do you help a 10-year-old find that happiness and that goodness?
You have to get them, all of us, right? We have to get to past the point of it's not all about me, and we can see the bigger picture. Again, I agree with everything with what you said, because, again, covered in multiple lessons that we've had in the past. But I liked your point of be somebody that when you leave a room, you're missed, and I like that.
I think one thing that is trying to get across to us is that there's going to be times in our life when things aren't going well, and we get down. And what happens is that people stay there, and they get discouraged. And this is where so many people, or young people, commit suicide because they don't know where else to go. But the point is that there are good things in life that's going to happen. And they don't allow themselves to be happy when they're in the midst of it, because their mentality is where it used to be.
Yeah.
And the thing is you know, break out and start a new day and wait till life is over.
Yeah, I remember somebody telling me one time that they're, let me think, how do I want to say this? They had, their husband was one of those that, if the meal coming out at the restaurant came out wrong, he would let that ruin the entire evening. Right? That's kind of, well, I don't know if they ever made it to dessert. But kind of the same concept, right? You get hit with something that you're not expecting or that sours your mood, and how long do we let that just continue to fester? Maybe not that insignificant, but the same kind of idea that you're bringing out.
Kevin?
Yeah.
Probably everybody in here has experienced the coming onto somebody's need, and you felt feel good about that. You don't pat yourself on the back about it. The Bible's complete on that.
Yeah.
But I'm thinking of, how many times, I don't know how many times exactly, I know he said it a lot, Jesus in the New Testament, to remember the poor. And, I mean, whenever I say that, we need to make some judgments
Yeah.
whenever we consider the poor. But I know there's been incidents in my life that I helped somebody, and I felt good. I was happy.
Yeah. And I'm sure they were happy that you helped as well, right? Yeah. So he goes on to the next page, 86 there, in that first paragraph, and he says, human beings frequently describe others as happy or unhappy based upon a single page in the book of a long life, right? That kind of, I think, kind of goes back to what Sam was talking about. That paragraph right there just triggered in my memory that out of all the lottery winners, right, we focus so much on money being a way for us to be happy, right? You got to hit that big lottery so that you can sit back, not have to do anything for the rest of your life. I think the statistics show that it's like 70% or somewhere around there, 70% of lottery winners are broke within 7 years. And it's like 1% of lottery winners go bankrupt every year. It's not a very long life, right? But we tend to say that those individuals they're happy, right? When they win that lottery, they're happy. They have a happy life. Another thing that I was thinking about was there's at least from what I remember, that there's a point in which your income, you're happy up to a point. And so for the Purdue individual, or individuals here, there was a 2018 study that suggests that at $105,000 of annual income, that is the peak of one's satisfaction in life. In 2010, there's a study from Princeton that would suggest that one's happiness increases up to $75,000 and then levels off. And in 2021, University of Pennsylvania, to kind of counter some of this, said that there was no plateauing in one's happiness or satisfaction with the increase of income. But kind of what the point is that income and can affect one's happiness up to a point. And I bring that up because, again, we focus so much on how much do we make and being comfortable, if the more money I make, the more I can have, or the better situation I can have for my kids or my family, and but that's not always the case, right? We get promoted, all right, it might feel good for a moment because we got the recognition that we were looking for, the validation for, that we've been looking for the last several years. What does it bring? It just brings more headache and more struggle with something else. You're doing more with less people, right? That seems to be the going theme anymore. But you go down south where, income isn't as high, and what do you find? You find a lot of people that are very happy with a very basic life. Again, going back to that mindset of it's not about necessarily what you have, it's about who you're surrounding yourself with, the attitude that you have about everything. April?
I went to talk to Andrew a couple nights ago, and he said, Mom, I was thinking about the cup. He said, the cup that's half full, is it half empty or half full? He said, I guess it matters how it got that way. Did it get that way because you drank some of it, or did you just start it that way? It's, 10 o'clock at night? Like, okay. And he just chatted for a while about it, and I said, yeah, I guess it also matters, did you fill it or does somebody else fill it? And, then it's like, you know, it was just that little thought, and let something else, and you know, a lot of times we just think about the cup, and
Yeah.
we just, is it half full or is it half empty? But there's a whole lot more that goes into it, and is somebody, you know, holding your cup up when, you know, you're filling it?
Yeah.
Those people around you that are adding to the cup when you've got nothing left. There's a lot more happening on that table.
Yeah. He goes on to say then, just because something unfortunate or even tragic happens in someone's life, that is not the end of it, and it certainly does not sum up the entirety of a life lived. It may only represent a single page of a very long book. Similarly, a single fortunate occurrence may suddenly change a life of, change a life of misery into one of joy and celebration. In that case, the days of suffering will be quickly forgotten in the joyful years that follow.
You're reading from Job.
Yeah. Yeah. Perfect.
Job.
Yeah, exactly. Has anyone, not forcing anybody to say anything, but has anybody ever seen this play out in real life? In their own life, I guess, really, because he has some examples that have played out in our lifetime, but has anybody seen that played out in their own lives? I don't know how many know this about my family, but I have my parents had, or I have a sister that's younger than me. She passed away when she was 2 months old from SIDS, right? Very tragic situation. But it didn't prevent my family from, or my parents from moving on and unfortunately having my younger brother and sister. Right?
Is Valerie older than you?
She is. Yeah. Unfortunately, I have an older sister too, so.
Explains a lot.
Yeah. But again, the idea that, there are tragedies that happen, but if we look at that one moment in time, there's sadness, but there can be joy in it, right? Knowing that she's not going to have to suffer at all. She's in heaven, in a much better place. Didn't stop the family from growing, from doing things. We've moved past that. And so, going on to some of these examples that he brings up, and he talks about Hurricane Katrina and the displacement of many of those individuals from the New Orleans area, and talking about the one family that took that tragedy and turned it into something good, taking that, looking at it as it's a chance for us to start over. We could look and only focus in on this one moment in time and say, my life's destroyed. All my family, the pictures that we had of the kids are destroyed. There's all the memories, everything about the house is destroyed. They took that and instead moved to another location and said, we want to start a restaurant. We've always wanted to have a restaurant. So they started a restaurant. And it flourished. Take something that could be a tragedy and turn it into something positive.
When the things we went through with court and having a lawyer, we've always said that hopefully we can help somebody else someday with that knowledge. And I just saw a post on Facebook last week where one of my best friends growing up, they just got, we gave them our lawyer's name probably 10 years ago. And it helped my
he uses Christ and specifically calls out Peter and Paul for the remainder of this chapter. How does those three individuals, how do they fall into this idea of waiting until the final chapter has been written? The point with Jesus, he looks at the end of each four of the Gospels, and how are the Gospels wrapped up? Okay.
He died, but then he didn't stay there.
Yeah, we don't see him staying in that at that point, right? We don't see the apostles gathered together with no hope. It wasn't that moment in time where it seemed like everything had fallen apart for them. We see Christ coming back and encouraging them, right? Yeah, keep going. It's not over until it's over. And again, looking at Paul and Peter, what happened to Paul and Peter?
Paul became a blasphemer, or he called himself a blasphemer at one time. And when he saw the light on the road to Damascus, and became a believer in Jesus Christ, and the vision from heaven asked him why you're kicking against the goads. And that implies that the things that Paul had seen and heard before can finally convince him that this man was the Messiah, Jesus Christ.
Right. What do we know about Paul's life after that? Right. He goes on, 3 missionary journeys all over the Mediterranean area, preaching and proclaiming. How does his life end?
Yeah, very hard life.
It seems like a very hard life, right?
And in the end, was willing to give his life for it.
Right.
And everywhere he went, there was Jewish people that followed him and tried to discredit him
Yeah.
and what he was saying.
Right.
So
And
he might come in and bring peace and joy and come right in and try to cause trouble.
run him off. How can somebody like that's being ran off from town to town, shipwrecked, beaten, everything else, be such a happy individual? And then he goes to Rome, and I think based on history, I think he is beheaded, right? Peter is crucified. I think my understanding's right. All the apostles had suffered some hard end to their life, minus John, I believe, right? How can they go around claiming to be happy, knowing that that's the road that they're going? He had faith. Right? We talked about last week of, so many individuals that to turn them around, all they needed to do was regain some faith. Yeah.
It's because he had such a firm conviction that to live is Christ,
To die is
to
gain.
die is gain.
Yeah.
And knowing that, he was able to go through all those things.
And it wasn't just a, this is what I'm saying type attitude. He lived it, right?
He died it.
He died it. Yeah. Yeah.
But they never took their problems personal. And they always realized the source of everything was from Satan against his Lord. Therefore, if I'm going to suffer for Christ, I'm ready and willing to do it. Because they didn't take it personal themselves.
Yeah. I mean, again, that's a thought for us, right? Is there's a lot of tension in everything anymore, and we got to recognize that they're not attacking us; they're attacking God.
They knew they had that comfort though, too.
Yeah.
In that faith.
Yeah.
The faith.
And that should give us great joy for us as well, right? Again, I think it was last week that we talked about, focusing on God's promises. There hasn't been a promise that He has made that hasn't been fulfilled except for Christ coming again. That's the only one that we're waiting on. But if He's been true to His word so far, we have faith that He's going to be true on that one as well. And that should give us great hope, great joy. Does anybody have any other thoughts or comments about this lesson or anything else that we've talked about, or any other thoughts that you have about happiness in general? Because I'm done.
I keep thinking about studying about the history of the church and some of the persecutions that some individuals had to suffer through. And there's been recorded some occasions where, here it is, you've been taken captive, and you've been told, you can save your life if you offer sacrifices to this idol or something like that. And we won't do it because we know that that would be a betrayal of the Lord. And that at the lowest point of their lives, it's been recorded that some of them got up and ran and jumped into the fire themselves because they wanted to meet Christ.
I can't ever think about doing something like that, but I haven't been left with that choice or not, right? But if that's what you're going back to the question that Austin posed to us, almost 2 months ago, I think. If you were offered heaven now, would you take it, right? Would we take it?
I've heard you pray, Lord, come quickly. That's something that's probably hard for most of us to reckon. I mean, we understand the concept, but we have children, we have grandchildren, we have this,
Yeah.
and all. And I think probably, well, I know that what I pray
Yeah. Brenda?
I'm agreeing.
I'm glad we raised our children, raised our children, I don't know. I could handle it. I just had a cousin 3 times removed or whatever, whose grandchild, 13 years old, committed suicide because of bullying on social media. And it's just, you think, well, why didn't they take it away from him? And why didn't this, why, and maybe he had, I don't know, but
Yeah.
I'm sure we dealt with a lot of other things that are dangerous to our children, but to me, that's such a terrible thing.
Yeah.
Growing up, we were hidden a lot of things in the world. So when I got into high school, there was a lot of shocks that I had to face, and even into college. And so there's a lot of things now, and now we don't reveal everything to our kids, but as they have grown, we reveal a little more. So you've got to be prepared for this. And so we feel it's a need because of the world the way it is, that despite all the negative, you've got a defender. You have to constantly lean on that defender. So no matter what the the conflicts or the negative things that happen, you can still rejoice. It's like Paul did. And especially for the older two, Eli still doesn't understand a lot. But for the older two, they find a lot of peace in that. They get bullied by cousins. They don't go to public school, but they get bullied by cousins. And so I said, you guys feel like Paul. Why are they doing that to you? Because you have something better than them. Better than what they have. And so keep teaching, keep standing up, keep being that positive pillar for them. And one of these days, there are some examples that my dad has been able to turn his brother around. Not completely, but he's been able to turn his sister around. And he's working on his younger brother.
Yeah.
They now look up to him, where they used to make fun of him.
Yeah. It's a good example.
A couple of years ago, in high school road, we had a new teacher take over the 5th and 6th graders in the legal room. And she became highly alarmed that as 5th and 6th graders, these were children of Christians. They didn't know any Old Testament stories. Well, of course, that's been changed now. A lot has been changed, and they're preaching on it now, and things of that nature. But I appreciate what said. That's so true. Also read an article recently how many parents are withdrawing their children from public schools to put them into public schools or homeschool, into private schools. So, yeah, that's what's going on in the world today. Even, it bothers me to have to say something like that. But that's going on, I'm afraid, in the church today. It goes back to the responsibility of the parents in the church today.
So as we wrap up this class, this lesson book, if we want things to change, we have to be the change, right? And I think that goes back to your point, Brenda, that if I want this to be a happier place, I got to start with myself, change my attitude, be like Mike and always be happy, or at least show a happy face. Maybe if I wore some bright yellow shirts, it would help as well. Not today. Got to hit everybody. But I appreciate everybody. I hope you gained something from this lesson, these studies. It's a good reminder for all of us. It's been a good reminder for myself to, don't have to take life so seriously, and And sometimes you just got to change your attitudes. But I think, Aaron, you're taking the next class. Thanks.
What just happened?
Yeah. I backed up a couple times.
You did good.
I appreciate you guys giving me a class. Yes. Well, no. He just came to themselves. Did you? That is really weird. So not used to that. This is, no, you're fine. You're fine. Your mom and your niece are the ones that really are throwing me off. Yeah. There you go. Thanks, Mike. And Luke's coming back, so yes, there you go. Hello, everyone. We're small in number tonight, but we're going to be mighty in voice, right? Okay, all right. So 168 in the books, not the supplements, but the books. 168. I don't know about you, but our class went well. We had a new teacher tonight, so that was good. And he did a really good job. Hopefully your teacher did a good job as well in your class. We have times like this to be able to build us up, to remind us of why we've chosen this life, why we've decided to be God's chosen people. And so I love songs that really make me smile. This is one that makes me smile. We've had several days in a row that were kind of gloomy, kind of cold, and now we've got sunshine. So there's not just the sunshine that's outside, but what does it do for us? It brightens us. It lifts our moods. I think that's what Wednesday nights are. They are a pick-me-up, a boost, a smile to my face. So we're going to sing 168, and as always, if there's a need for anything, let us know so we can help you with anything. If you have prayers that are needed, either for yourself or for others, let us know that as well. We'll have a time soon after that to be able to do that. I'm assuming Mike's taking that. So, all right. So let us go ahead and stand, and if you're able to, we're going to sing 168, Heavenly Sunlight. Walking in sunlight all of my journey
Pray with me. Heavenly Father, it's a wonderful time being here this evening. Kind of like getting our batteries recharged, because we know things that we are out in the world dealing with can really drain us and weaken our faith. That's one of the reasons we come together here, to appreciate what you did for us with the death of your son, but also give us a faith checkup, help us get through these trying times that's a lot different than we have in these walls here. Some of our members that are traveling, some members that are ill, sick, and have some pains, please be with them, bring them back safely to us, help them gain their health. Help us the rest of the week to go out there and be a shining light and be an example and be the kind of Christian that you would like us to be. That's what we all strive for. It is in Jesus' name that we pray. Amen. All right, the recovery list now, not really the sick list. I should put that different title on here. Good to see Bill today. You seem to be getting along just fine, so I'm glad to see you here. Also good to see you here this evening. Emily's brother-in-law in radiation, he's in the middle of doing that right now. Lori's brother Mark, still recovering. Sally, recovering things. Rhonda, still doing all right, recovering. Renee, back pain, that's going to be, she'll have to deal with it until she gets some kind of a cancer or surgery or decision. And so we'll keep them in our prayers, because dealing with pain is really tough when you're trying to get through your everyday life as well. A lot of travels. If they're not here, they're probably traveling or at work or something. So keep them in their prayers as they come back to us and see us on Sunday. Speaking of Sunday, what a transition that was. April 30th is Sunday, last day of the month. That's our community singing right here at 2 o'clock. After services on Sunday morning, Spivey's got us a shelter house to get us a little bit warmer than being out in the open shelter house. So we'll have a pitch in between 12 and whenever we're done eating. I saw some of the menu people were throwing around there. It's going to be really good. If you don't come and enjoy the food, then shame on you. Any announcements or anything that I don't know about? Yes.
We don't have a date yet, but we're going to be having everybody over in the near future for Brenda's dad, Ron. He's going to be out for a time, so about a week here, and then he's going to be down in Louisville for about a week. But
Okay.
we want to have everybody over to enjoy some time with him.
Love Ron. Ron hasn't been a regular member of this church for a long time, and he still sends us reminders for the men. Don't forget, you got to preach on Sunday, you know? And it's just awesome. It's great that he does that, and we'll look forward to seeing him when he gets back here. Anything else?
Connie sent a note that she was not feeling well. So
Okay. Thank you very much. Appreciate that. All right. Have a wonderful rest of the week. Make a difference. Two mics.